Hello, YouTubers. Okay, this video is basically about being a foreigner. Okay, I'm going through one of these phrase books, and I like comparing language material. Alright, so I don't really like this one. It doesn't have the basic phrases on the inside cover. It doesn't have an index, so you can't look up a word and then see how it's used. It does have a dictionary with just one definition, which can be very misleading. It does have a few charts, which is very useful. So I'm not going to say it's completely useless. And it's got a menu reader, which also is very useful. Okay, I'm not going to get into too much details. I'm getting interrupted again. So, as I'm going through this, I'm kind of thrown back into situations I've been in. A phrase book isn't really for a beginner. It has to be used differently. Okay, once you know a lot of the language, you can use it maybe like to increase your vocabulary, focusing on the dictionary part. But really that's only after you know what the language is supposed to sound like. See, I don't like this one because their grammar part is scattered about. Some of these blue boxes have grammar tidbits from the first like 15 pages or so, instead of having like the first 5 or 10 pages dedicated to at least giving you a very just an overall structure of the language. So when you're actually hearing it and seeing it, you're not seeing patterns that are really going to drive you up the wall, because you wonder, oh, does that always happen or whatever. You know, these little things actually answer those questions for you, so you'll know that yes or no or whatever in these circumstances and not whatever. It's just the most common, the most basic. It doesn't get crazy on you, because you don't need any of that stuff. Just enough so it doesn't drive you up the wall when you're seeing it and being exposed to it out, when you're out and about. So that's very useful. But mostly you're going to use it as a pointing book, right? You're going to, now I've seen some language materials, they'll have it in English, and then they'll give you a phonetic spelling of it, so you can try to get an approximation, of how to reproduce the sound. But they won't have the language, the thing in the target language. How ridiculous is that? Because until you know how the thing is supposed to sound, this is going to be a pointing book. You're going to actually point at it and have them, so they know why you're just annoying them, right? But which is the main point of this thing. After about a couple of weeks, you won't be able to do that anymore. Even if you get the audio component, you will have run out of so much patience that odds are you'll find it very difficult to motivate yourself to review the material. Which is why it becomes so important to know how to say something before you actually get there, because your patience will run thin. Another thing, don't be too smart for your own good, and be a social butterfly when dealing with local businesses, kind of thing, trying to get the cheapest price, because you're only going to end up annoying everybody. All right, you're going to be a very annoying individual because you don't know anything, you don't know how to say anything. It's like 20 questions for to deal with you for anything. You're just going to be an aggravating person to deal with, and you will have no loyalty because you don't even know. These cultures don't consist of just big corporations setting up these mega stores, and the employees are going to get a paycheck regardless of whether you make a purchase or not. These are small, independent owner-operators, and you really have to think along those terms and wrap your mind around that kind of culture. Anytime you walk by a business to go to another business half a mile away to save 50 cents, you might think, you're not going to let this local rip you off or whatever, but it's the time and effort you are wasting. It's not going to be worth it. You are not going to get the goodwill of anyone. You're going to annoy everyone. You're not going to have. Believe me, you're running around trying to, get that first job or whatever, and you have to jump hoops just to handle your daily tasks. Everything is going to be a Herculean task for you. It's just when it's you are burning your bridges, and that doesn't just mean something when you're dealing with getting employment. It also means something when you have to buy a piece of fruit or a roll of toilet paper or a notebook or a pencil or just your daily activities just to get through the day. It's a different culture. It requires something that we don't really think of when we're just dealing with megastores and corporations, which is getting the best buy for the buck, right? That's not what most cultures are. Most cultures consist of local, independent owner-operators, these tiny shops or even a kiosk or a stand, and if they offer adequate service and the supplies you need, I mean, you're going to be annoying. You're going to be an annoying person to deal with because you don't speak the language, and it's going to be a lot of effort just to be able to communicate just enough to buy whatever the heck you're trying to buy without walking right past them, and never no repeat business. You're just shopping around for prices and numbers and annoying everybody and not sticking with anybody, and you're being so smart, and you're burning all your bridges. So it's a different kind of approach. You really need to get the notion of customer loyalty, not for the big corporation, but for the little guy. who at least, yeah, you're going to be an annoying foreigner, but you know, you're repeat business. They're glad you're there because you're helping to support them. Okay, so you're a little annoying. I've got to spend 5 extra minutes with you back and forth and whatever, and I'm only making a few cents, but you know, it's a few cents here, a few cents there, and that's how people keep a roof over their head and food in their stomach, and you'll at least have one person that's glad you're there. As opposed to, oh, you're going to be a smart aleck and walk half a mile to save 50 cents. And the day after that, you're going to walk half a mile in the other direction to save maybe another 20 cents. And then the next day, you're going to walk half a mile in the other direction, maybe to save 5 more cents. And at the end of the day, you may find a way to pay as little as a local, but by that time everybody is so pissed at you, and you already so pissed at everybody else, that you just, nobody wants to deal with anyone anymore, including you, because it's you're a hassle. So it's a smaller, more personal interaction than we're used to dealing with in kind of a mega store corporate culture that we are accustomed to, where really the only thing that matters is not getting completely ripped off. And it does not, no one's going to lose a roof over their head or whatever. If you know, you save a few cents here or a few cents there, that's no, it's being a complete foreigner, being a complete beginner. You really don't want to getting a handle on a language, even just a basic level, takes a little time. And while you are doing that, and while you are trying to find a job, and while you're just trying not to starve, you don't want to be just annoying people, and you're not even going to have a clue as how you're annoying them either. It is not the same culture. You have to think on a smaller scale. These people are owner-operators. They're not just employees in a mega corporation kind of thing. And a little bit of loyalty and not being too smart for your own good is going to go a long way. Your patience will not be worn so thin. The locals' patience won't be worn so thin. I mean, it's just, you have to make a different approach. Unless you have so much money you can afford to just annoy everybody and pay your way out of your difficulties. But then again, you wouldn't be walking the half a mile away to save 50 more cents then, if you're willing to pay to lighten the blow kind of thing. It's being a beginner. Using a pointing book that is going to, you won't be able to use again after a couple of weeks, because you've used up everyone's patience, including your own. It's not going to be helpful. All right. So these phrase books are pointing books if you don't, if you're not too clever for your own good. All right. Don't you're dealing with individuals here, not corporations. And you have to try to remember that and act accordingly. Because you're going to be annoying. But I mean, if you do repeat business, they'll work with you. Okay? A business person wants your money. That's how they don't starve. That's how they keep some kind of roof over their head, as humble as that roof may happen to be. So this is a pointing book, and it will work until you completely burn all your bridges. So yeah, the audio thing, it's great to know as much as that as you can before getting there, but that's not always going to be an option. And if you've already run out of your patience, you're not going to be too motivated to review the way you should be reviewing once you're there. In other words, this language thing is trickier than you may think. It so much depends on motivation. And yes, the number one thing is finding good language material, and that's very subjective. And you need to do that before you get there. Identify good language material. In other words, something you enjoy using, or at least don't hate using. Again, very subjective. That may be number one, but number two is not to be such a jerk, or not to be so clueless that you end up just going through your patients and everyone else's patients before this even becomes relevant. So it's going to be an adventure one way or another. So identify good language material, and do not burn up your patience, all right? Your good grace. And that happens by being clueless about the kind of culture you're dealing with, because you won't even know what's happening. Okay? The people you have to deal with, the people you have to acquire your daily necessities, a piece of fruit, a roll of toilet paper, a notebook, whatever it is, don't try to be too clever, okay? I mean, just do the exchange. When they tell you what the price is, convert that. Just, is this, if it's not a price you would pay for back home, by all means don't get it there. And write down that number, and then maybe somewhere down the line, if you come across it again, you ask what they're going to sell it, but really don't go out of your way to save 50 cents, because all that may mean something in our culture, but what you're dealing with when you're dealing with an individual business owner and not a corporation is you're burning your bridges, really. I mean, if you're willing to pay that much at home, don't be so, and don't walk a mile to save 50 cents, because that's not going to help you out in the long run. All right, you're going to be annoying. Don't Don't also be stupid and clueless on top of that. Because motivation is something that's going to be more advantageous for you, the foreigner. The native person doesn't. I mean, they're set. You're the one that's got the problems. So, yeah. Realize that it's a different culture. That's what you have to wrap your mind around. Okay, it's my language again, my language material, and what's happening, and why it may be effective in some circumstances and not effective in others. And yeah, it's definitely an individual thing. And coming into terms with your host country's culture. Okay, talk to you later.